each fret has been leveled, and as you can see, the tops of some are wider now than others, i.e. the lower fret has had less filing done to it. But that is where the recrowning comes into being. You want to get rid of the extra dust, the dust created from our frets, and then get your Sharpie out again and make the frets red. You don't really need to do this because you will be able to see the longitudinal scratches quite easily when you're crowning them. But just to be easy, there is nothing quite so effective as a bright red or black stripe. Bright black? Down the middle of the fret. This is a traditional fret crowning file we make here, and effectively we are just reprofiling each fret until we've got a thin strip that goes straight down the middle of each fret. Now we've ground a safe edge on there so it's not likely to damage your fretboard, but it might still dent it a little bit if you don't have masking tape to protect it. So you can see I'm angling it over just a little bit. And the trick is to create essentially a pyramid type shape. So it's got three faces, one on that side, one on that side, and then the flat on the top. And the flat on the top needs to be about 3/4 of a millimeter. You don't want it to be much smaller than that, because at that point then you start, when you round it over in the next stage, you might well take too much off with your polish and paper and all that. Now there is another option for this. This is still a smooth single cut file, but if we use our fret end beveling file, it's got an even smoother cut. And use the beveled side. That will remove more scratches. So I tend to use them in tandem. I'll start out with the crowning file and then move on to this, just to save a little bit of time with the final polishing later. The next stage, there are several options. You can take a piece of 240 or 320 grit paper. In this case I've got the 30 micron, which was to hand anyway. Wrap it around a finger or a dowel or something that has had that's got something soft on it. And effectively your finger is acting as dropping in between each fret, and it's doing a little bit of rounding over, and it's also removing the scratches from the fret leveling file. And what we're doing now is removing the last vestiges of our permanent marker. That's option number one. Option number two is a Crimson Guitars. What are these things? Finger sandery type things. And you can use one of these. These are more, to my mind, for spot leveling, but yeah, can do the job. We also have some abrasive rubbers, and brown is medium, white is fine, I suppose that's grey-ish, and this will get rid of those scratches just as well. And in this case you can either go up and down like so, or if you concentrate on each fret, going in the opposite way to the way the file was going, you'll be able to see any extra scratches much easier. And the nice thing about these these rubbers is they're very, very, very hard. They don't disintegrate and leave crud all over the place, like some others that we know of. I will show you the Gary Flex block in a little while, because those are wonderful, but do that. So effectively, as I'm polishing the scratches out, I'm rounding the fret over and getting rid of that three-sided shape, and turning it into a rounded over fret without any scratches in. And there we go. Now that took quite a while to do that one fret with this, with that. However, once you've got the fine on, it doesn't take very long at all. And that fret is now as polished as most frets are when they come from the factory. Although we're obviously going to take it one step further. I think that the fastest option is likely to be using sandpaper wrapped around the finger, effectively, because you can do lots of frets in one shot, and then move on to the fret rubbers. This is a Gary Flex block, and I mentioned it just now. It's not as fine as our hard, fine one of these. So it's sort of a compromise. You could use this in between the 240 grit paper phase, or even instead of, if you want. But as you can see, it's very soft, and it falls apart. It falls apart. But essentially, it does do a rather fine job. And I'm seriously tempted to start selling them as an addition to our fold. Get rid of the dust. And after doing a 240 grit, move on to the fine fret rubber. This one's well used. They last forever, they're so hard. And you can either just go up and down like so. The fine one isn't going to damage and go through the paper. The coarser one will eventually go through your masking tape, yeah. But what I tend to do was a little bit more gentle. Either use the back like so, or this is the thin one. I played with cutting them in half because they last so long, but we currently supply them, both of them, at this thickness. And yeah, just sit there, polish out the last of the scratches, like so. And what this does is it eliminates the requirement for wire wool, which is nasty stuff. If I didn't, well, if I could, I'd eliminate it from every single stage of guitar building entirely. It's just sadly not that easy, but this does the job, does this job very well. Now if you alternate your strokes, especially if you go along the length of the fret, you will see if there are any scratches, and that's what we're trying to get rid of. Ugh. Forgot how to speak there for a second. Yes, if you see any scratches going in the opposite direction, i.e. across the fret, then there's more work to do. Nice and shiny. I've been blithely showing you various abrasives and things without talking about the actual operation at hand. Very basically, if you skip out one of these steps, your frets will not be good enough. If you skip out the 240 grit and move straight onto the fine polishing, you will be sitting there with the fine polishing for hours and not get the same result. If you spend 2 or 3 minutes removing the hard scratches from the leveling file, which are very fine files, by the way, then you will save a lot of time at a later stage. And effectively there are many different ways. You can use wire wool, there's different grades, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0 wire wool, steel wool if you're in the States, and go through those to get a progressively finer finish and then polish by hand. You can use the sandpaper wrapped around the finger to start with, either 240 grit or 300-400 grit, something like that, and then move on through the grits in paper. So 400 grit sandpaper, 500, 600, 800. I do 4, 6, 8 and then 12, for example. Or you can give us a little bit of your money and buy a fret rubber or two, or find a Gary Flex block somewhere near you. They do them in various grades as well, although you'd only need at most the two finer ones. Whatever you do, you have to progress through the grits and get rid of the deeper scratches before you move on to the next stage. And we are at the final stage, and the final stage here, after we've used our lovely fine fret rubber, which is the equivalent of about 1200 grit paper, I move on to Autosol, and this is a chrome polish, and it's in a cream form and doesn't get underneath the masking, so we'll be able to get a really fine finish and polish. It's a good word, that is, using this. So, close up. We have our Autosol. Dab it on a bit of paper. Tissue paper's got an abrasive quality of its own, seeing as it's made with, well, there's clay in the mix. I normally do 3 or 4 at a time, but in order to show you the difference, I'm just doing 2 at this stage. Now, of course, these frets are a hypoallergenic. What is the word I'm looking for? It's not a blend. My brain has farted and I've lost it. Come on. Anyway, it's hypoallergenic and it looks like brass. It has no zinc in it. No? Bollocks. It has no nickel in it. See? You shouldn't really think about frets. Anyway, so there we go. That is shiny. And the shinier the fret is, the smoother the guitar will play, and the better your experience as a musician will be. Now, I've got the ends of the frets at the same time, a little bit, and we have perfection. Highly polished frets. Shiny, shiny, shiny. Now, the masking tape is to come off, and if you just grab the end of the tape that's on the side, it will lift the ends of all of the pieces of tape and then snap. Now, I've used a low tack frog tape here. Some other tapes come away a lot, well, they struggle, and then they try and take finish with you and bits and pieces, and it's nasty. This is coming away quite nicely. If you're using a high tack paper, pull it away like this at a 45-degree angle, and then that will pull less fill out of the grain, or less grain. But in this case I'm not too worried. Although a little bit of my Autosol appears to have actually got through, which is a first. So maybe that's what comes of using a low tack tape. I've been experimenting over the last year or two with something that I like to call the Crimson Guitars Fretboard and Finish Restorative. And this lovely, lovely stuff smells rather nice. Cleans away fretboard gunk, gets away the tape that any glue left over or residue left over from your masking tape, and cleans and replenishes and revives your fretboard. And it's better than lemon oil. Yeah, I'm using a weak solution at the moment to clean the gunk off, and then I'll just put it all on and let it soak in. Here we have it. The fretboard has been treated, cleaned, the frets are lovely and polished. I hate filming shiny things. It's practically impossible to show them just how shiny they actually are in real life. But anyway, trust me, them's shiny frets. And look at the detritus. Lots of stuff on the bench. It's just the way it goes. Anyhow, onwards. Oh, I can see some shine. Lovely. On to the next video. Thanks for watching. This is Crimson Guitars. Subscribe.